Alright, I was a little scared. My screen was broken. But looks like we are good to go, guys. Let me just swap those. There we go. Welcome back to WCS Qualifiers for Season 2. This is, of course, the European Qualifiers. Thank you very kindly for tuning in, guys, and welcome to the match. If you're just joining us, we had a very interesting game number 1 involving a T-Rex and a gold base and all these wonderful things, but we find ourselves on Frost, a much more standardized map, and spawning here in the lower right corner of the map, from our blood, it's going to be the red Zerg player, Snitchables.
In the bottom left, as the purple Terran, it is EG's Demuslim.
So this is kind of the scary thing about Demuslim, right? Like, a lot of Terran players, you expect them to play particular ways. You guess the Reaper opening, the Hellion follow-up, but while Demuslim can execute all those into a T, he's also one of those players who'll be like, surprise, it's a T-Rex, and this is a really early SCV coming to the middle part of the map, just in case he doesn't know his opponent spawns, has to put it between them.
Demuslim now my favorite player now.
But here's the thing, right? Like, you look at this and immediately you go like, wow, Demuslim's a cheesy player who doesn't know how to play the game. He's just trying to cheese his way through the qualifiers. But this is almost like a rite of passage. Like, if you can hold this off, then Demuslim will come at you full force with like whatever he's got left in his pocket, right? But why go for the crazy macro game in a big qualifier like this if you know that a T-Rex can almost get you a guaranteed win? And Snitchables, he's got a drone scout, but he's not going to see the Rexes, I don't think.
Oh, he is. He's gonna. Oh no, he's not.
No, he's rallied for the towers, and this should be out of range of the towers.
Okay, see, if he had scouted... Oh, that's because Overload's going over there. No? Yes? No? Yes? No?
I'm watching his vision.
No.
Still doesn't see it. This is...
That's so BM. Checking the towers because... Okay, there are... The common T-Rex places, or the common used-to-be T-Rex places, was near the Zelnaga towers. But then they changed it so that it was in the middle of the two Zelnaga towers. And you gotta scout there.
And the thing with Demuslim is he's going to scout the top right here with the SCV. He'll see nothing. He'll send one of the building SCVs down to the lower right, and he will kind of hit the jackpot, so to speak.
Overlord, though, and that tells him.
I don't know if the Overlord itself, because, I mean, at the same time, that Overlord seeing that SCV up there just kind of looks like a weird scout. I don't know if Snitchables is reading too much into it.
Demuslim knows where Snitchables is because of that Overlord.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. My bad. I misunderstood. But, okay, so he puts the further bunker back. I like this a lot. This, again, this isn't one that's in that range of the hatchery, and very much so on purpose. It's meant to keep the Marines safe, because the most common way you see T-Rexes shut down is the drones get pulled, they surround the SCVs, they pick off the bunker placement, and as long as this one goes down in range before the creep spreads, yeah, there we go, he's good.
There comes the drones, pulling about half, exactly half, to try and kill this, but surprise, there's another bunker.
Yeah, come out with the Marines. I mean, 3 Marines is already hard enough to deal with as is.
Whoa, you're not. Demuslim don't. Oh.
Okay, so the reason you don't normally do this, guys, is because the Queen will spread creep up here and you put a spine crawler on the ledge and this shuts this down. But Snitchables didn't know this was coming. He doesn't have creep spread. He doesn't have a spine crawler already started by any means. Every bit of minerals he's had has gotten into lings. And, unless he's gonna... Actually, he's already taken gas. He could go for a Bailey Nest really early, but instead a Roach Warren's gonna be in store.
That's interesting. The reason you see Banelings is because they do very fast damage. They do the burst damage, and so they can break the bunkers before they're repaired. The reason you don't see Roaches because Roaches don't do burst damage, and the SCVs can out-repair them. So I don't know. He's definitely going to be able to take down the top bunkers, as you said.
Well, I like that he stacked the hatchery this time, too. One of the biggest problems is him trying to keep this alive last time cost him everything. And he over-dedicated into things he couldn't afford. If he breaks through one of these bunkers, the Roaches simply walk across the map, and we all know that the big downside to a T-Rex is there's usually nothing to defend it. But, oh god, is he going to lose this Overlord?
No.
If the second Marine Raptor on the other side...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That second Marine definitely is gonna get it.
Yeah, that's 2. He's starting a command center as natural. Demuslim's going to reel back off this. He's actually not worried about the counterattack because he's already preparing at home. He's got a bunker coming down at the top of the ramp, and oh, this is going to be a terrible... It's not like a supply block yet, but this is not something that Snitchables can afford to lose.
Oh, that Marine.
No creep spread yet, though. A little bit curious. I mean, a tumor is more important than injects at this point.
Yeah, especially when you're going Roaches, which are very larva light.
Well, that, and, he doesn't have the economy to build like 6 Roaches at a time or anything like that.
Yeah, definitely would have liked to see the creep tumor. You can take down... Well, he's going to be able to take the bottom bunker anyways with Roaches. It just would have been faster with his spine crawler.
So I think... I don't want to say Snitchables is necessarily out of this, but he's taken a lot of losses, and I don't think he made the quite right steps to rectify this. I mean, if you can... the roaches could technically shoot from above, I guess. I don't know. The creep's just taking so long to spread that the spine car is not gonna be in range of the bunker for quite some time. He's actually dancing SCVs in and out of the bunker. That's kind of cute.
So, like we said, you're gonna be able to take down that bottom bunker, but the other ones are still out of range, and you can try and like run past the bunker, but there's so many Marines. I don't know if it's actually worth it. Plus, at this point, you don't know if the barracks have already floated home and they're building Marines back there.
And at this point, you're exactly right, nail on the head. Like, the Muslim's got that natural base down. He's got a factory on the way. He had even pre-built a bunker before making the supply depot to make sure that he would have been safe from a counterattack. But recognizing how long it took Snitchables to break out of this, I don't think the Muslim's scared in even the slightest. And I don't think the Muslim's actually, or I don't think Snitchables rather is going for that counterattack. By the looks of it, he's just trying to clear up his natural.
That is enough. That looks like a lot of roaches. Plus, with the spine crawler, he's gonna be able to break this. I feel. Okay, no.
He's gotta use the spine crawler more than the roaches. The roaches are supposed to duck forward and pick off the SCVs, not focus fire the bunker. I just feel like Snitchables is probably not have the most experience dealing with this, because at this point, look how far behind he is. Look how long it's taking him to move out of this.
Yeah. He still has a good drone count, though. Usually we see them try and hold the natural, like you said, and they're down like.
Focus, yes, he is. Alright, he's finally gonna break this.
Yeah.
But at this point, it's still kind of one of those things where, like, do you even try and take a hatchery? You're so far behind, and he has to know this. This is 9 minutes in the game, and he's sitting on no tech roaches. And he already lost.
Can't catch the Marines either.
Well, I mean, he lost 8 to those bunkers when realistically it should have been none. Like, you dive in, you pick off the SCVs, and let the spine crawler do the work. But again, everything was delayed and took so long. The only thing he's really going for him is the Muslim didn't go greedy for a quick third.
Perfect.
But there's Banshees.
Yeah, Banshees are the perfect response. I was like wondering if he was going to go for a tank, because you do have to be afraid when they go roaches for that counterattack, but Banshee's pretty perfect as well. He is going to catch these Marines. The Ling's popping out just in time to catch them before they can reach that bunker. That is not quite done. High ground vision is going to be Snitchables' worst enemy, though.
Of course, as a liftoff, he's got that much going for him. Like, I would love, like, if Snitchables broke this and came back and won, that would be the biggest upset, and Snitchables would literally be the most epic player of all time. But the problem is, even though his drone count is nice, he just, I don't know. I don't feel like he's got an edge way in here edgewise. I mean, there's a Banshee coming out, sure, but that's gonna push all these roaches back or force the attack. Either way, once the Banshee comes out, I kind of feel like that's gonna trigger some sort of game-ending move.
The Muslim is getting so many bunkers because he figures Snitchables is going for an all-in, like has a baneling nest down. He scouts that there's a hatch. He can't really scout or lose that barracks for a baneling nest, but I think he's now figuring it out that there probably isn't. And Snitchables is going to go for a lair off of 2 bases. Starts it after the barracks scouts, so he's not going to see that. The Banshee is going to get good scouting though too. Like, it's going to be able to scout everything, including like the upgrades are a questionable decision. When you're behind, you got to find ways to come ahead that you can kind of sneak in there. And a lot of times it's either like a faster third or hidden base or faster upgrades. I don't know if upgrades are really going to play a part for a long time.
That's actually weird to consider, because yeah, upgrades are normally the thing we talk about a lot in TVZ, you know? Like Zerg plays first on 1-1, he gets the 2-2 real quick, and it kind of fast forwards through bailings, but the acceleration versus the slow start here doesn't really matter. And Demuslim is actually going to go mech off of this?
Interesting.
It's kind of, it is actually kind of a cool response, I guess, knowing that, you know, one of the hard things with mech is you can fall behind as Zerg player takes all the bases, your economy will falter, and your units won't be out and available, but that's not going to be the case here at all. The Muslim, though, the scary thing is because he didn't have like a follow-up, like, you know, because he went for the Banshee and not a tank, he didn't have some sort of assault he could put in the front lines, he couldn't quite end the game, and the longer he gives Snitchables, the better chance Snitchables actually has to possibly make some sort of big epic comeback.
So the Banshees can't do a lot of drone damage as there are enough spore crawlers, but they can stay outside and take down queens. There's an overseer, yeah, but you know, you catch one queen out of position, that gets sniped off really easily. Snitchables, it's up to him to actually keep those queens together.
Nice bait from the little man.
Yeah, stop the Banshees from doing damage. The fast Spire is going to work out here as the Muslim, as you said, he's going mech and he's still producing Banshees. Where is his anti-air? It's all in Wood mines that are known to be outside of the Muslim's base.
Oh god, if he's gotta go Thor. It's Thor Hellbat though, right? Like, that's the opener. You don't see a lot of players play like the Avilo tank style, turtle in, go for Ravens or anything like that. Or it's just a goodie more so.
That he has to.
Well, I mean, a couple things make sense because you're expecting roaches still. But yeah, it's Thor Hellbat. That's the way this goes like 9 times out of 10.
Are you really expecting roaches still, though? They're still on 2 base. You know they don't have a third. What could they possibly be doing?
Well, that's what, you know what, it makes sense though. That's what he's seen. That's what the Banshees have been poking away at. That's what the Queens have been trying to fend off. But yeah, the Spire...
I would always be like Spire. That's what they're doing, 2-base Spire. I would always assume that. Maybe I'm in the wrong here, but he's got to figure... Oh, no, he
No,
has.
you're not in the wrong. It's versus Zerg. Spire is usually in play. I don't know any Terran strategy a Spire is necessarily awful against. Because, I mean, you can even overwhelm Thors with Mutalisks. We've seen it happen both in Pro League and in North American StarCraft, so it's very much within the realm of possibility here in EU that's going to happen as well.
Where are the Thors? I'm saying, like, I would
know.
expect it immediately. Like, if they're going 2-base something, I would be like, they're going 2-base Mutas.
I'm sitting here, like, just gritting my teeth, because, yeah, the Mutalisks are coming. There's a couple turrets down, but there's not a lot of Widowmine coverage, and there's not a lot of Marines available.
He's trying to defend entirely with turrets,
You've seen it now, too. By the way, the Mutalisks have been revealed.
They could work out. I'm trying to think if maybe he's trying to... No, there's the Thor. Okay.
But, okay, yeah, in the base, with the turret coverage and with SCVs to repair, the Thor is good to go. Unfortunately for Demuslim, he doesn't really have a way to secure this third, and this army out here is kind of exposed.
Oh, there's almost turrets down to protect the army.
Demuslim, man.
What are the army?
I feel like what happened here was like he was really feeling confident about how much he did early on, so he's like, I'm gonna try something a little bit different than I normally do. I'll play a little bit for funsies. I just hope that doesn't end up costing him the game here. I mean, right now this doesn't game any damage. This is like a small handful of Mutalisks, but still, it's a bit concerning that there's just no real way to deal with them at the moment. 3 Thors are about to finish up here in a moment's time, though.
Yeah, you also need to start producing those Hellbats as
oh no, the Thors can't get out. The Thors actually can't get out of the base right now. You had to cancel.
This is the worst part about mech.
You had to cancel one to get it out of the base. Oh, that's SimCity. That's SimCity.
Should also, if he's not producing Hellbats off the reactored factories, he should try producing Widowmines.
That wouldn't be too bad either, yeah. Of course, the biggest fear is the Mutalisks can just kind of dive in with that Overseer, however. Usually focus them down. But 3 bases finally established for Snitchables behind this. Drone count's not quite where it would normally be, or at least where he'd want it to be, but again, he's still in this game, which is the most baffling part to me, because I feel like I don't know that he could have handled that 2-Rex any more incorrectly, you know what I mean? Like, I really don't want to be too negative about him, but he did make a lot of mistakes handling it.
Yeah. Well, Demuslim, I feel, is going to set up for like a 1-2 punch, you know, go with a mech attack that happens sooner than you expect with like tanks and Hellions, and then just completely wipe out Snitchables. The fact that he went for a Spire obviously really surprised Demuslim.
Okay, so these Lings get picked off and don't really get much done. One Ling will, so 1 HP on that thing, like, gets in there. The Infestation Pit on the way, I'm really thinking is going to be leaning towards Swarm Host. That's usually the response you see to a lot of mech play. But because Demuslim had gone for those tanks first, he's actually already pre-prepared for this. If it had been for the Thor Hellbats, he could have probably pushed and won before the Swarm Host even come into play. Sure, granted. But he's actually, oddly enough, prepared for if that's going to be the follow-up here.
There won't be any upgrades on the Swarm Host, which kind of, you know, sucks. But the fact that he went for such early upgrades is working out, and I can't believe it.
With the 2-2 melee upgrades dedicated, looks like he's just going to skip right to the Ultralisks, which I say can very tentatively be effective, because Thors technically punch really hard, and they can deal a lot of damage to Ultralisks, so do the Siege tanks. But if you got enough Lings flooding in behind it, with 3-3, and Demuslim has no upgrades going for him, he's got level 1 weapons, that's a very real possibility of him breaking a tank line.
Yeah, it is. Oh, getting transformation servos. Looking to try and take care of the map.
Oh man, these Mutalisks.
They're annoying, yeah. Demuslim is about ready to push out, I feel. He's getting up to 150, which is where you can see their first opportunity to attack. His +2 weapons is going to be finished, which... those upgrades are going to be actually very terrible. But he is...
Okay, checks the third, at the fourth. Trying to look for the army, trying to catch where it is.
There is not much of an army besides the Mutas.
Yeah, I like the 2 bases being taken. That's kind of cool. We got high Zagato tracking for the turrets and a planetary if a planetary comes into effect here at the third. But the transformation servos is kind of cool. We don't see this a whole lot, but it can come into great effect. Oftentimes, if you run Hellions into a mineral line, because their splash is so hard to control, you don't get a lot of damage done before they're cleaned up. But if you run Hellbats or Hellions into the mineral line, transform into Hellbats before like that, your units are under attack message goes off, you'll fry a lot of those drones alive.
Demuslim gearing up to take a 4th. Could push, I mean, now that Snitchables has taken that 5th where he has, it's a very easy attack path for Demuslim and also protects that 4th.
Mulisks might get picked off here. There's a lot of Thors. If he engages, he'll clump up, and yeah, backs away immediately. Ling's gonna run to the planetary, but it is in fact a planetary, so not gonna get a lot done. Siege tank's still at home too. Actually, one of the tanks might go down here. Nope, just barely lives.
Snitchables, he has nothing but.
He's going for counterattacks. He's not going for fights. And yeah, the Mulos would actually be really good on the other side of the map because these tanks are going to expose, but looks like the Roaches will bully their way in there. This fight at home for Snitchables will not go well if he decides to take it with the Mutalisks. But the Roaches are going to break through. Tanks up on the high ground should be able to hold this off, though.
Yeah, with all this help, too. Should be able to do it. What is Snitchables going to do with that big army on his front? You know, Mutas, they need to do the perfect magic boxing. They're not that spread out, but this might be good enough.
You have to be perfectly stacked for the Thor splash to go out, but he's unable to focus fire because of this. So we see the Thors kind of going down randomly, but I think it's just barely going to be enough. The Thors are gone. The Vikings have been dealt with. Hellions are going to kill a lot of drones here, and Snitchables has taken some very real damage behind this, but he cleans up the majority of the army, and the rest of it has no anti-air to protect it. These Mutalisks will keep him in this game, and there's 25 of them, no less.
Views are so good. I don't know why anyone tries to use or tries
like,
to do that.
Why does anyone make anything except Mutalisks? I mean, really. No, but the magic box was good. I mean, the problem is Thor splash. A lot of people don't realize that you see a Thor, you think, okay, it's gonna splash a huge clump of Mutalisks, but you have to actually be stacked up for that splash to go off. It doesn't splash if you're even just if two Mutalisks are idling next to each other. It doesn't even splash that. That's what's so ridiculous about it.
It's man, Snitchables. He lost a lot of drones. I was afraid that the Muslim did no damage with that attack,
yeah,
and that would have been terrifying. But he did do a lot of drone damage.
I like the Hellions wrapping around the mineral line while that was going on too. He kind of knew that was his goal in this attack. But 3 missile turrets will simply not be enough, especially without any sort of building armor attached to them. Get focused down here real quick. The orbital may also fall, but the Muslim, what can he really do to react to this? What's scary though is Snitchables' follow-up to this is going to be the Greater Spire, and a lot of times you see a Greater Spire, you kind of laugh it off, you're like, haha, Broodlords, right? But Broodlords are actually kind of effective versus Terran, especially when they go mech, if they don't have the Viking count. Now, unfortunately, the Vikings have already been revealed, so for Snitchables to go blindly into Broodlords might be a mistake, and I hope he doesn't do that, but it's a good follow-up to have just in case.
It is common nowadays when you go mech and you're facing mutas, you add in a lot of Vikings. They add in DPS, sometimes it can be the deal breaker, and of course if they try and go for a Greater Spire, they're going to be helpful there. It also leads well into, of course, that's mass mech, you know, Raven Viking, what we saw from Avillo, casting the American qualifiers.
Well, one of the things as well is, oftentimes if you go Broodlords, one of the biggest things you hope to do is force out too many Vikings of your opponent. You want them to have 70 supply uselessly in the air, so when you remax on Ultras and Lings, the Vikings can't really land to help deal with it. But the Beetle is still standing. There's a lot of turrets coming down from Demuslim.
So many.
It's absurd how many you need, though, and they're necessary. Hellions do run by while this is going on, but here comes a big decisive attack from Snitchables. The Roaches catch the army a little bit out of position, but there's enough Thors and tanks to clean this up. These do not have a lot of upgrades on them.
And the more I'm watching this game, the more that I hate that the Muslim went for mech after that.
Yeah, like, and I'm sure he's sitting there going like, man, I wish I had just won and moved on. But here's the thing for Snitchables. I've seen him in some of the Zotecs and the Go for Starcrafts. He's not a terrible player by any means. This is a really well way to handle the situation, and again, like we can talk all day about how he handled the 2 racks, fine. But I think any other player would not have been able to reel back off of it the same way he has right now. So we got to give him props for that much. And if he wins this game again, like that's a really epic comeback, but also kind of a throw from Demuslim with build choice. But mech is meant to be, like you said, that sort of big punch follow-up, and it never got to do that damage.
Yeah, it all started when Demuslim just wasn't able to realize that it was mutas.
I think he did know though. I mean, he had turrets down at precaution, of course, but
yeah, but not starting the Thors.
I think he was. I don't think
setting up.
I don't think he was mutas. I think he was just more concerned about the Roaches.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, let's go with that one. The Vikings can also chase the mutas if they're trying to retreat, so this is also such a good use of them. Infestors are on the way as well as Broodlords. He doesn't have that much of an economy though. He did lose a base and he lost a bunch of drones, so.
Well, the thing for Demuslim too is we're focusing a lot on the low economy of Snitchables, but as a meching player, sitting on 3 bases is not what he can really get away with. He needs to establish a 4th before he's forced to turtle. Because the way the game's going, it's kind of looking like it's going to be a forced turtle. Infestors are coming out. They're going to fungal the Vikings. Broodlords will keep the tanks from siege, which means if there's any swarm hosts to follow it up, Thors and Hellbats might not be enough. But this fight, this is going to be a good one for Demuslim, and this timing that he's hitting is pretty much perfect. Because there's going to be about 3 Broodlords in play, no swarm hosts, no Ultralisks. And the Mutalisks might be roaming around, but there's so many turrets that this planetary will not fall anytime soon.
He hasn't been increasing his muta count. He stopped at 25, tries to go up to these Broodlords, which I'm not going to agree with. Not until I see what they can do against this army. Can they really stop it just 4 Broodlords? Maybe 8 by the time he sees them. Corruptors are on the way.
I worry. This base being denied up here in the top left. I don't know if Demuslim actually knows about that more north. Okay, he does know about that more northern base. But there's the fungal growth on top of the Vikings, and there's actually enough here to keep them alive. Without the Spore Crawlers, the Corruptor follow-up, there's no more fungals. Will the last one do it? No, 8 HP. These Vikings live. One more fungal would have killed all of them, but here come the Mutalisks. They might have something to say. But they're they're not magic boxed. They're clumped up. This is the mistake.
But the Vikings are targeting the Broodlords, so they will still.
But the transfuses. Broodlord's still standing.
Yeah, the mutas, they're still alive. That's a big problem. The Muslim is not in a good economy. I mean, Snitchables isn't really in the greatest economy either, but I still think that having the mutas is so much better.
He doesn't have the capability to remax as easily as Snitchables. Even like with both players being on the low economy, as a mech player, you have slow production, just period. It doesn't matter if you got a million minerals in the bank. Typically, you don't have more than like 8 factories at any given time. In fact, he's only got about 5, so he's really not able to produce that much, which makes this quite scary for counterattack potential. He's got a lot of Thors at home still. If he can clean up these darn Mutalisks, this game would be a lot easier for Demuslim to deal with, because that's what's really been causing him a lot of the pain and strife. Whether it's these big attacks that get cleaned up by them, or the fact that they've been trying to harass behind this.
Yeah, definitely. The thing now is that a Muslim, he doesn't have pushing power, so I'm surprised Snitchables isn't taking advantage of that fact. He's gonna have to try and secure that 4th. He can't stay on this one base, actually. The 3rd is only one mining any longer. And if Snitchables was able to realize that, he'd be, I'm almost sure, droning up right now instead of trying to produce a handful of roaches. I don't even know what those are really for.
Well, you know, the roaches are never bad. He's been doing a lot of counterattacks with them. You know, trying to sneak in behind Demuslim as he moves
6,
out.
Though.
I mean, yeah, they haven't been doing much, but there's always that potential that finally that 7th wave of roaches gets some damage done. But Mutalisks will be driven off by the Thors once again. And it's just what's so frustrating about this is Mutalisks, they heal up so quickly, so the Thors are getting volleys off, but it doesn't really matter because as long as the Mutalisk lives, it's going to be full health in about 20 seconds anyways.
I think what Snitchables should do with his mutas is, yes, he should always try and check that 3rd or the 4th, but it's checking the 4th, seeing that, in fact, the Thors are still there, because as soon as they aren't, he kills the 4th, but then he knows he has to defend. As long as they are there,
oh no, Demuslim. Okay, the Medvac gets pulled back. He's got Blue Flame on the way. For those who are wondering like why he didn't go for Blue Flame earlier, a lot of what's been available on the field hasn't been something that'd be affected by Blue Flame. Roaches, Spine Crawlers, Corruptors, Broodlords, I mean, these are done, even Infestors are armored units, so you wouldn't see Blue Flame getting much done other than just to workers. This later game Blue Flame, I do like that he's finally investing in it, because that'll allow him to do, it'll allow him to kill more workers per run by, rather than 8 who might get 10, and that number starts building up quickly, and a Zerg player who might be tunneling on building a ton of Corruptors and Broodlords might not think to rebuild his drones.
Interesting. Maybe got caught, tried to land on the Infestors.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, what, you just give it away for free anyways?
Yeah, right. So another big problem for the Muslim was that he didn't start his vehicle armor upgrades, which it's not really a problem that he was so focused on weapons only, because it was a scrappy game, and it seemed like that was part of his general attack plan, even though the attack itself wasn't really, didn't do as planned. So, it's okay that he waited, but it was going to become a big problem as the game goes on, because this game still hasn't a determined victor. Even though Snitchables keeps taking good engagements, the Muslim keeps on, coming back.
And what's kind of annoying too is Thors have the most useless ability. The transformation mode, it does help versus Broodlords if the Vikings all go down, but not by much. Really not by much.
When I heard of this mode, I was like, oh, that's so awesome. Like, I imagined it did so much damage for a single Broodlord, and then I watched it happen, and I was like, this is the most disappointing thing ever.
It's only like 4 or 5 extra damage per shot too, is what's disappointing about it.
It adds a lot of range. The idea is that I guess you can kite, maybe? I've never seen it be used effectively. I
think it needs at least 2 more range, though, because the problem is you get, caught up with the Broodlings. You can't actually get in range.
Oh.
That's a big volley in some of the Mutalisks. Who needs splash damage if you got enough Thors going off?
Snitchables trying to go ahead with his Broodlord switch. I don't like it. Well, he's actually slowly been rising that Broodlord count.
If there had been more tanks in play, this would make a lot more sense to force this out. But Demuslim, even though he invested in tanks early, never really went for that big tank-heavy composition. If Snitchables had made Swarm Hosts first to bait out more tanks, and then made Broodlords after, I would have liked that a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. The Swarm Host The thing that I like the Bacterians are having problems with is the Swarm Host to muted and to Swarm Host, that transition, because you have to, you know, give up Thors for tanks and vice versa. And then the Broodlords, after they go off from tanks, is also, as you said, very, very powerful. We just haven't seen Swarm Host. I don't know if Snitchables doesn't like it, he's not thinking about it, maybe, you know, a ton of villaging on the Broodlords, but it's definitely a good way to come back, you know, to, you know, Demuslim doesn't have any tanks.
I would like to take a moment too, by the way, as we approach the 35-minute mark here, to remind you all this came off of a very, very one-sided 2-racks. The fact that Snitchables is still in this game is really impressive. The fact that either of them have taken us to 35 minutes, that's a whole nother can of worms.
If Snitchables is gonna go full on with Broodlords, he's got to go like full on. I'm talking like a bunch of Broodlords, Corruptors for backup, and a lot of Infestors.
Well, that's what I'm kind of scared about. He doesn't have a lot of Corruptors. Normally, you see this like overwhelmingly stupid amount of Corruptors bully out the Vikings, and without anti-air, no way to deal with the Broodlords. The Mutals are going to try and accomplish that goal, but as we see, if they clump up for even a second, the Thors strike. Broodlings came down on top of this, so the Hellbats will do a great job of cleaning up the Broodlings as long as they can live for. Fungal Growth's trying to go off, but they're hitting Thors, and, well, that doesn't really do too much. Without much to buffer away from this, even the Broodlords are being focused down by the light weapon attack of these Thors, and I think Snitchables is about to lose the majority of his army. And a counterattack tries to go off, but it's a planetary fortress with armor upgrade on the building armor, so these roaches don't stand a chance.
I think the decision to go for Broodlords cost Snitchables this game.
I think there's a lot of things that led up to it that cost Snitchables this game, but you're right. This is one of the kind of straws that broke the camel's back.
Well, the Muslim will certainly be happy they didn't lose this game
He's making more layers. I think this is because he's worried about Demuslim taking out his hive.
But, okay.
I don't know. GG Scott, ladies and gentlemen, Demuslim will take the series 2-0. And granted, both times with aggressive 2-racks pressure. But,